My name is Marcel Salas, and I've written this book, The Alamo, A Cradle of Lies, Slavery, and White Supremacy. Very important book because it shows the continuity of slavery, how it came into Texas, what we now call Texas, and how Texas was ripped away from Mexico to establish a slave empire. We've talked about many of these things before, and we'll talk about more of it in the book. And certainly, the book is about 600 pages long. I could have done 3,000 to show the continuity of white supremacy and slavery and how all of this took place. One thing that's never mentioned, because I do like to talk about the things that are totally left untold, things that they never wanted to talk about. And for example, James Bowie, he was a slave owner. He operated many times out of Galveston Island. He worked with the pirate Jean Lafitte in selling slaves and illegally bringing slaves into Texas and actually bringing them into the area of Galveston Island. And the reason why Bowie was using Galveston Island was simply to avoid United States law, which said that you could not import slaves from Africa into the United States. So he went around in a roundabout way, he ran an end around by dealing with the pirate Jean Lafitte and then bringing in those slaves into Mexican territory, which was at Galveston Island, and then to be sold throughout the state to the different Anglo settlers. Another point that's never told about Jim Bowie, he actually tried to surrender to General Santa Anna. He actually went outside of the walls, didn't tell William Travis about that he was going to do this, went outside the walls, actually was able to get a hold of a Mexican general and simply tried to surrender. His idea was rejected, obviously, but this would have made William Travis angry. Travis tried to remove him from the Alamo by saying that he was a drunk, that he was always releasing men from jail or from the stockade that Travis had sent to jail for disobeying orders. He was always fighting and arguing with people. He would not obey any orders of his own. And he literally would tell his men, you're only to listen to me. I'm in command of my own men. Travis is in command of his men. So there was no real command and control structure inside the Alamo at all. Not to mention, or not to forget, I should say, the 9 Anglos, white men who tried to surrender and who did surrender, who jumped the wall, you might say, who left the Alamo compound, went outside, and actually told on the other Alamo defenders where guns were hidden inside of the main city, inside of San Antonio. So that story's never told. What we get is a story about maybe one guy decided to leave, named Rose, and we only talk about that one guy. They never talk about the 9 who actually really left before the fighting actually started. So these things are all of the things that they just don't want to talk about. They don't want to talk about it because it destroys the myth. It destroys the hero worship. And what it does is a cover to cover up the idea that they wanted to establish a slave society on land that was ripped away from Mexico, a slave empire, to make a long story short. And you can make the argument that the reason why these settlers came to Texas from slave-owning states, by the way, was because cotton is what enticed them to come. Well, that's true, but only in part. The other thing that's very true is the idea of manifest destiny, and the idea that manifest destiny should actually be called racist or white supremacist destiny, because they came here with the idea in their mind that whites were superior to everyone else. They came here with that. They brought their slaves with them. And so for someone to say that the Battle of the Alamo and the fight for Texas independence only had to do with the cotton trade is just simply only half the story at best. So these things are totally ignored. Very important to understand the runners who left from the Alamo, leaving behind their comrades to stay behind and who died. By the way, they really didn't get a chance to put up much of a fight because there were reports from different people who survived it and witnesses outside who said that before a single shot was ever fired, roughly 500 Mexican troops were already over the wall before any shot was ever fired. And that's because most of the Alamo defenders were asleep. It was a very cold time, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. Most of them were caught totally off guard. These stories are not told. This is what's in the book that you need to know about. Thank you.